2, 1, action.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to call to order the March 13th, 2025 business meeting of the Portland Harmony Union Free School District. Item 1.2, opening of the meeting and the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1.3, presentation for 2025 PNW BOCES Student of Distinction Recognition. The Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES and Portland Harmony Union Free School District recognized Drew Kressler as a Student of Distinction for March 2025. I'd like to turn the presentation over to Superintendent Walker.
Thank you, Anna. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for everyone who's here in person and those who are watching at home. I know I can speak for the board and the administration in saying that the highlight of any board meeting always is the chance to recognize outstanding young people who are contributing to making our schools better and our community better, both inside and outside of the classroom. And it's a genuine honor to have one of those Tiger students here this evening. Drew, congratulations to you, to your family, and to honor you in some further detail, it's my pleasure to introduce BOCES Superintendent Neil Boyle and BOCES Administrator Jessica Miller.
So on behalf of the BOCES board, one of which we had the pleasure of sharing with you, Neil Hayward, who's also on our board, which thank you for sharing him with us. We really want to thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. This is also a special night for us. As you know, well over 1,500 students, and we only do this for about 15 kids a year. So these are really special nights when we have an opportunity to come and brag and share with you. As you know, he's also a student here. But we appreciate the collaboration of the Portland board and also Superintendent Mr. Walker and the admin team. It's an incredible partnership that we value, and this just highlights how that partnership works. But behind every successful student is a dedicated support system. And it's just one that we expend to the CT administration, the teachers, most importantly, Drew's family. Thank you for all of your efforts and partnership. But Drew, none of this is possible without your efforts. You're the one that makes this happen. You can have guiding lights, but you're the one that puts all the effort in to make it possible. So just on behalf of the BOCES board and all of the administration, we really want to thank you for letting us be part of your educational journey, and we really look forward to helping you get to the next steps of that journey. So on behalf of everybody, congratulations. And I'd like to introduce Jessica Miller to say a few words on behalf of the staff at CTE.
Thank you. Trying to look at Drew too. So Drew Kretzer is a stellar second-year student in the Architecture and Engineering program at the Career and Technical Education Center at PNW BOCES. He stands out not just for his academic prowess, but because of his work ethic, helpful nature, your sense of responsibility, and your determination. In a field that requires a strong foundation in math, physics, and design principles, as well as attention to detail, Drew is reliable and resourceful. He's always willing to give 100% effort in the classroom and is enthusiastic, organized, hardworking, and all of this is according to your teacher, Mr. Jerry Markel. Drew has a level of maturity that is unusual for a person of his age. He juggles extracurricular activities, an internship, and helping out other students in the classroom, all while keeping up with his coursework. We know we can expect great things from this year's Student of Distinction in the future. Congratulations, Drew.
So Drew, as a member of the Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES Board of Education, as well as a member of the Portland Harmony Board of Education, your home district, I would like to present you with the Medal of Excellence for you to wear proudly wherever you desire. And I know that we also have the Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES Student of Distinction Award, March 2025. A certificate is awarded to Drew Kretzer in recognition of your outstanding leadership skills, academic progress, and community spirit. So, now, we know you have a long meeting, especially with the budget conversation, but we would be honored if you would have the opportunity to take a picture with Drew. So if everyone will get up, please take a picture. Thank you.
Moving on to item 1.4, approval of the agenda. Recommended action be it resolved the Board of Education hereby approves the agenda as presented. So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 2.1, President's Report. Good evening, everyone. I will keep my comments brief tonight as the agenda is long. The ad hoc committee of the policy committee met yesterday, at which point a statement was read regarding policy 0105 and the how and why it will not be coming before the board for first reading. This does not change anything that is happening in our schools. Our district level commitment to all of our students is still ongoing. Please reach out to your building level administrators or Superintendent Walker to discuss questions or concerns. The board continues to hold Meet the BOE before each of our meetings. Our next meeting will be Thursday, March 27th at 7:30, before which there will also be an opportunity to meet with the BOE at 7 in the Rotunda, and an information session for potential BOE candidates starting at 6:30 in the faculty lounge at CHUFSD. All interested members of the community are encouraged to attend. At tonight's Meet the BOE, there was a question raised regarding the district's engagement in the process related to the collective bargaining agreement related to the teacher's aid contract. It is the position of the board to not comment on ongoing contract negotiations.
Just one thing about the 27th.
Yes.
Meet the BOE may have to move only because at 6:30 is I believe is the Ethnic Jazz concert.
Okay.
And so I don't know that it would be a good place to meet right outside the jazz concert.
It might
And
be.
able to, it might be, it might not, get a quick chatter, or it may have to just move somewhere else so that we, they
So
can
we'll-
talk to us. We'll figure that out.
We'll coordinate with Dr. Versace regarding that and make sure the community is informed as to the whereabouts. But those two meetings will be happening before the next BOE meeting, immediately before. And that's all I have. Moving on to item 2.2, hearing of the public. Uh, Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Speakers should state their name and Croton Harmony School District address. All comments must be addressed to the Board of Trustees, and comments about a specific person, staff, student, or Croton Harmony District resident are prohibited.
Good evening, Ed Riley from Truesdale Drive. I'd like to recommend to the board considering a student club to support the Fuller Center. The Fuller Center is named after the founder of Habitat for Humanity. It was Fuller and his wife. They got Carter involved. Carter helped publicize it, but it was the Fullers who founded Habitat for Humanity. The name was changed because Habitat wanted to charge a $55,000 franchise fee, and many of the local Habitats rejected that. Habitat is still around, but it's really an administrative operation. For instance, they run the ADU function in Westchester, but Fuller does the repair of housing and so forth. And they took care of a house down the street from me on Nordica Boulevard. This woman was without insulation in her house. And you remember the freezing weeks we had? No insulation. They came in and did that. So we're going to do a wall board, but this one's, some people are paying, but they'll come back to do that. What they do is they use high school and college kids to do the work under the supervision of professionals. I'll give a copy of their brochure to the clerk. Briarcliff High School, some of the best high schools in Westchester, Scarsdale, the Chappaqua High School, Greeley, and many of the high schools in Greenwich and Darien, some other towns like that. So you're a good company. And it was good practical experience for your students. And I support Mr. Haber and his efforts both with BOCES and through scholarships to train students to do the practical skills they will need throughout their life and to keep their wife happy, in my case. On a more serious note, I'm not going to talk about it now. One, you should have had a TikTok policy a long time ago. I know it's a political football right now because of the size of TikTok, but any organization that accumulates personal information on kids and shows them crap videos, which they spread among other kids, and stores the personal information in China is not a good operation, no matter what the business connections are and how deeply they're ingrained with 8 million businesses with all their advertising. And along with that, you should have had a cell policy about 25 years ago, which we did in the schools I worked in. You parked your cell phone in a locker room. If you use it during the school day, it's confiscated and the parents have to pick the cell phone up. And it's because of how it's used, to embarrass other students, to embarrass teachers, et cetera, et cetera. It's been going on for 25 years. So this policy should have been developed 20 years ago. Good luck with that one. And lastly, when you examine your textbooks, which your policy committee discussed the other day, you should examine for anti-population, anti-child policies, which are so rampant in the environmental movement, seeping into your textbooks. Thank you.
Hi, Elisa Silverglade, Half Moon Bay. I attended the policy committee meeting yesterday, and I just want to express that I was really heartbroken and at times disgusted by what I was hearing. It seems very evident that personal risk aversion and anxiety thinking is driving the decision to stand down from the equity policy as opposed to real risk assessment and critical thinking. And I get the anxiety. We are living in a very scary time. Things that were not so risky a few months ago are risky now. At the same time, what we see is a number of unconstitutional and illegal executive orders that are being fought in court. And we live in a state where the Attorney General has stood up for our legal right to pursue DEI as a school. Standing down from the DEI policy is not going to make you any safer in this environment. If they're making a list of pro-DEI schools, you're already on that list. They're not waiting to see if you're going to pass the equity policy, and then they're going to report you. They're already reporting you. You're already being sued in federal court for having an inclusive anti-harassment policy. Standing down from this policy is not going to make you safer, but it sends a very strong message to this community that you are ready, willing, and able to capitulate. And that, in combination with a void of communication from this district about how we are positioned in response to these executive orders, is terrifying. And after being at that meeting yesterday, I find myself wondering, what is next for your capitulation? Is it curriculum? Is it rainbow flags in classrooms? Is it culture night? Is it pride clubs? Is it the Laramie Project? What is next on the chopping block? I have no idea. All I'm seeing is capitulation. And, you know, Neil says he wants to leave this work to schools with more resources and more experience. But what I hear is that you want to leave it to schools with more courage and more moral fortitude. This is a very important time. You know, you don't want to be a leader in pro-DEI policy. That ship sailed years ago. You can't be a leader in pro-DEI policy. But what you can do is stand up. You can fulfill your obligation as an elected school representative, a person whose job it is to be a public advocate for schools and students, and you can stand up. It's really important. To quote my 18-year-old, we are at DEFCON 2, and every person, organization, and school board with power needs to take this opportunity to stand up. I respect you. I thank you for your service, but I have to tell you, I'm finding this cowardice shameful.
Hi, everyone. My name is Linda Jones. I've lived on Morningside Drive for 27 years. As some of you know, I served on a Croton Horn School Board for 6 years, so I can appreciate the complexity of your responsibilities. I'm here tonight to offer support and a challenge to the board and the administration. The real challenge is I'm doing it without my reading glasses, so bear with me. There is no doubt that public education is under attack. It begins at the federal level with the gutting of the U.S. Department of Education, threats of withdrawal of federal funding for local schools, and pitting community members against one another using the recently launched DEI whistleblower portal. How can anyone be against policies and actions that ensure all students have an equal opportunity to learn, that they feel safe and supported, and believe that there is a place for them at their local schools? Public education can be and should be the great equalizer. It can level the educational playing field for all children, regardless of class, race, religion, income, ancestry, and zip code. What would life be like if ordinary kids like Steve Jobs and Warren Buffett, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Meg Whitman, Spike Lee, and Oprah, because you can't have a good list without Oprah, had not gone to public school? What if they had not had the opportunity to be curious, to learn, and be guided by those entrusted with helping them to find their path? Public school has brought many of us to places we could not have imagined while growing up. Public schools serve a vital role in the community and more broadly in the future of America. We should all strive for a robust, strong public school system. The strength of our nation relies on an educated citizenry, and that formal education begins with public schools. We should be thinking about and planning for this generation and the ones that follow. We need a strong public education system across the country. I thank you for your work. I offer my support to all of you as you swim in these treacherous waters. I know your days are long and your brains are tired. I challenge you, though, to keep your eyes on the prize, which is the future of our children and the future of public education. Marshal your considerable resources and hold fast to what you know is in the best interest of the students. When you are unsure, talk to them, listen to them. They will tell you what is essential for their future. They are relying on you. Do not be afraid. Do not succumb to external pressures, real or imagined, that will sway you from your goals as leaders in this community and role models for our children. The challenges have never been more significant, and your contributions have never been more critical. I leave you with two things. One, I agree with everything my colleague Elisa said. I was at that meeting yesterday. And the second thing I will leave you with is a quote from Banksy. If you get tired, learn to rest, not to quit. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andrea Fury. I live at 14 Morningside Drive. And I was a school board member from 2009 to 2021. And I'm here tonight because I went to the policy committee meeting yesterday, but also because I turned on the news tonight. And I heard what's happening with education in this country. And I'm really here to follow up with the two people who just spoke to say that I'm standing up for public education, and I'm inviting our community to do the same thing. When I went to school, when my children went to school, it was a carefree experience. I mean, they had to worry about studying, but there was not the situation where there was so much concern that there's a misstep or somebody says the wrong thing or does the wrong thing, that there's going to be a punitive response to that. I don't really understand what's happening in this country, but I'm here to tell you, though, I'm happy to report that the majority of our district supports our schools. And you all know that because you see it in the way our budgets are passed, the way the community gets involved, the way people love our children and want to stand up. The businesses really are supportive of our community. So I think I also want to just say one thing, is that I was really dismayed to see on public media that there are people in our community that are gleefully reporting our schools on portals to organizations that are not educational organizations, that are organizations that are more concerned about taxes and the welfare of children. And I'm just here to ask our community to please stand up and make your voice heard about how much you care about public education and our children. Thank you.
Anyone else at this time?
Hi, I'm Allison Samuels. I'm at 237 Montgomery Road West. Also just want to echo everybody's appreciation of all the service you do and also support of obviously of public education. But I'm going to focus a little bit on a different issue. It's close to a year since the 2024 Cultural Night, which contained numerous insensitive and anti-Semitic political materials. And on multiple occasions and through various channels, many parents and students have brought concerns to you. Trying to be positive community partners, we have provided you with data, resources, and restorative recommendations. In response, we have heard very little of what can be done to address the anti-Semitism in CHUFSD, or what kind of investigation of the event occurred, or if any investigation happened at all. This has led us to research how anti-Semitism has been affecting other districts in our area. Chappaqua recently hosted an international night where the Jewish community encountered similar concerns. That is where the similarities between our districts end. Just a few days after the incident, Chappaqa's BOE amended their event guidelines so they would be ready to implement before their other schools' International Day. They recognized that a full review and investigation of the offending event was necessary and were prepared to make policy changes to ensure the experience of Jewish students is considered going forward. There are additional differences in the approach Chappaqa's BOE has taken. First, they implemented a resolution against anti-Semitism, which included the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism and its examples. This is also noted along with their equity policy and was added in December 2023. CHUFSD has not been open to adding anything about anti-Semitism into our draft idea policy. And after one mention of adding a resolution on anti-Semitism, that idea seems to have faded. In January 2024, the entire Chappaqua School District teaching staff received a training on anti-Semitism presented by the AJC. We have provided contact information of the AJC to Superintendent Walker about this resource, but our understanding is that no teacher training has followed. Chappaqa's systematic approach to handling anti-Semitism seeks to continually improve how the school system responds to anti-Semitism and provides a strong model for handling all instances of hate they may encounter in the future. Chappaqua attempts to better understand past issues, create policies which help avoid future instances of anti-Semitism, and give immediate support and training to their teachers. This approach mirrors much of what PASA has been advocating for since the beginning of the school year. If you're serious about making school all it can be, then let's get more comfortable assessing the areas that need improvement and look to taking swift action as our peers have modeled. I mean, what allows Chappaqua, a much larger district, to act with such transparency, decisiveness, and speed? And we're kind of a little bit slower here. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who has any input? Thank you, everyone, and took the time to address the board. Moving on to item 2.3, superintendent's report.
Thank you, Anna. Like you, I will be brief because I have two administrative colleagues who I know are chomping at the bit to share their budget presentations with you this evening. But I did want to start by congratulating on behalf of the entire school district community, Sonia and Ava from the class of 2025, who on Friday morning found out that they are the valedictorian and salutatorian respectively of what is an outstanding class of Tigers. Having got a chance to know these two young people over the past 3 years, these are not only high quality academic learners who have been blessed with intellect, but are people who have used that intellect to high impact, right? They, through outstanding work ethic, through their studies, through their commitment to learning, their commitment to excellence academically, and are high quality people and great representatives of our community, and not just Croton Harmon High School, but the entire K-12 experience and how this community supports education. So it was one of those special moments every year where the entire central administrative team joins the high school administrative team and the counseling team at the high school to get a chance, in this case, to recognize Sonia and Ava. And after cheering them on, we've developed this tradition where we kind of just take a minute and let them just sit there and absorb it, because it's one of our goals that for the two of them and for everyone who's been before them and comes after, that's a moment we want them to remember for the rest of their lives. Right? They've worked their entire lives for that kind of recognition, and to be present for that is one of the great honors of my job. So after some congratulations, then of course the first question, I think it was Sonia who asked it, was, does this mean we have to speak at graduation? So officially the answer is yes, and so their work now begins in earnest, but I look forward to hearing from both of them, as I know the community does at graduation, and to getting a chance to congratulate them many times throughout the course of the spring. We've invited both of them to attend an upcoming board meeting, so the board will get a chance to recognize them as well. So congratulations. A couple of other events from the past couple of weeks across the district. Friday was also Read Across CET Day, so wanted to thank the entire literacy team at CET, as well as Carrie and Craig, of course, for making that possible. And thank you to all the teachers who invite so many of us in to get a chance to share some great stories. My name is Selma the Unicorn. this year I had a chance to share that with several kindergarten classes. Always one of the highlights of March each year. So thank you to everybody at CDT who made that possible. The weekend before that, I had a chance to attend the Young Artists 2025 exhibition at the Katona Museum of Art, where 3 of our outstanding young artists, Anna Samuels, Elle Wheeler, and Tara Hoy, had some of their pieces exhibited. These are, of course, phenomenal young artists who are great representatives of the kind of talent and strong creativity that our community is known for. I want to thank Jody Berger and the entire art department for their work in shepherding such great young talent. It really was just an inspiring afternoon to get a chance to spend time around so many wonderful young people, their families, and some really incredibly diverse and creative expressions of thought and inspiration. So thank you to everybody who was involved in that. Thank you to the Katona Museum of Art for hosting it. Also wanted to thank Christine and Carla and all the coaches who made such a successful winter sports season possible. Thank you to the Booster Club. Greg, great job in capturing just a few of the outstanding moments, wonderful champions and student athletes who make our entire community proud. Christine will share some more detail about that during her presentation, but congratulations and thank you to all of them. It really was a great ride this winter season. I want to make special mention of our district's first unified team. This is something that was discussed during the budget process last year. It was a passion project of Kevin Brunel for the past couple of years, and between Mr. Brunel, Mr. Palanzar, Ms. Drago, Mr. Paul, and many others, this now has become a reality for some truly exceptional young people who now become young, exceptional student athletes. And so starting with bowling and basketball, and there's some discussion of bocce ball, I think, for the fall. So we'll make sure to get the board the schedule of those events, because it will be great to get a chance to go out and support some truly special young people and their coaches. And just a quick reminder for our community, and most importantly, our students, no school tomorrow. Right? Superintendent's conference day, so a full day of professional learning for our staff, starting bright and early with some good breakfast. And I look forward to sharing a message with the entire staff. It's one of the great privileges of this job to get a chance to spend some time with the entire team in the same place at the same time, talk about the work we're doing and the impact it's having on our community, followed by a great day of professional learning, including getting the strategic planning team back together and continuing that work and taking stock of where we've been and where we are with the vision map over the past couple of years and going forward. So we look forward to a terrific day of learning. And to all the Tiger students, enjoy the day at home. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Superintendent Walker. Moving on to item 2.4, the student trustee ex officio report. Our ex officio student trustee Isabel McLaughlin is not here today. We will move on to item 2.5, the budget report. Dr. Ellen Moskowitz, Director of Technology and Innovation, will report on the 2025-2026 technology budget. Christine Drago, our Director of Health, Wellness, Physical Education and Athletics, will report on the 2025-2026 athletic budget. Thank you both for being here.
Yes, just wanted to say, by way of recognizing both Ellen and Christine, obviously 2 new leaders to our system, who within the first just few months here we've already put their handprints firmly on the operations of the district. The work you do, the leadership you provide, literally impacts every single student in the school district K through 12. That's a remarkable opportunity. It's a remarkable responsibility. And I think the board and community will get a glimpse into some of their vision and their work leadership tonight. But this is an ongoing effort from the 2 of you. It's a privilege to be your colleague, and thank you for being here tonight. So Ellen, you're going to lead us off.
There we go.
The
Ready?
floor is yours. The board has many questions, I'm sure.
I can't wait.
Have at it.
Well, welcome everyone to our inaugural budget presentation for technology and athletics for the 25-26 school year. Okay, so today we're going to review our department's guiding principles, key investments, budget breakdown, future plans, and that support our mission to provide innovation, equitable, and student-centered learning experience. Technology in Croton, while our department is small, it is mighty. And we support a wide range of systems, tools, and services that enhance learning and daily operations. This includes instructional technology, infrastructure, professional development, and technology-driven innovative spaces. And as shown, we have over 1,000 computer devices, over 1,000 tablets, 40 switches, 20 servers, more than 150 boards, 225 access points, firewalls, WAN and LAN, over 300 phones. So our small but mighty, we service a lot of tools. And there is our hero, EduTech hero, Miguel, over there in the corner who we couldn't do it without. That was made with AI, by the way. Just because,
He doesn't look
tech.
like it.
But it looks like him, doesn't it?
Does he wear?
I mean, he should wear a cape. He should.
He will now.
Right? And so while I have only been here for a few months, the 2024-25 school year has been really wonderful. And we've, as Mr. Walker has said, we've kind of made some great headway throughout the district for the 2024-25 budget. Most notable is we gave out iPads for grades 2, grade 6, and surprisingly, in the middle of the year, grade 7, which was very exciting. We were able to provide iPads for all elementary and middle school teachers, so they also have the same device their students have. We've upgraded over 40 classroom boards across the district, including 16 of them over the past 2 days. We co-funded Sports Time Radio with athletics. We enhanced professional development, which of course is a passion of mine, both on software tools, Promethean products, and Apple-focused learning to enhance the learning of our students. We also committed money to purchase new DJ equipment for our video production space and video production equipment. We did massive infrastructure upgrades. We installed 2 new servers, a new core switch at PVC, 6 battery backups, and 93 access points. Additionally, we upgraded our administrative team devices throughout the district, our security devices and clerical, and upgraded the network in our bus and garage and transportation. So that was just in 7 months. Wait until I have a whole school year. And while all that was happening, I worked with a team of teachers that spanned across 3 buildings. And we kind of came together to develop these guiding principles to determine as a department how we should operate and why we should operate. And as a team, we came up with the guiding principles, and I've been sharing in my board weeklies kind of iterations of that. But this is the draft of what we're going with now. Of course, it's open for revision in years to come, but so as a team, we decided that it's essential that we ensure that learning is creative, joyful, and engaging. We believe that technology plays a key role in helping students connect, collaborate, and solve real-world problems, and that we are committed to providing tools that are consistent, reliable, up-to-date, and forward-thinking in order to empower both students and staff. So in order to do that, I set forth 4 goals for the 25-26 budget. First is to enhance our infrastructure for improved performance and reliability, ensure equitable access to devices and tools for students and faculty, expand our professional development to empower staff and enhance instructional practices, and enhance our ability to provide student-centered, passion-driven learning experiences. So some of our infrastructure upgrades, one of them that I'm very excited about is increased EduTech technician support. We're increasing the amount of time that they'll be on site. in order to improve response times and support our teachers with technical difficulties. We're actually expanding our bandwidth to support growing digital demands. We are continuing to shift away from desktop computers towards mobile devices, fostering flexible collaborative learning environments. We are also continuing to upgrade our infrastructure by working on our switches throughout CET and PVC by installing 8 switches and 5 more battery backups. As far as equitable access for students and faculty, we're focusing on device upgrades for teachers, as well as iPads, continuing the iPad initiative, rolling up to grades 3 and grade 8. So we will have all of PVC will have be on iPads, and K through 3 will be on iPads next year at CET. We'll also plan to continue to upgrade our display technology with about 20 more classroom displays that will be upgrading over the 25-26 school year. And as we have been doing this year and will continue to do throughout the year next year, enhance the professional development opportunities for both our hardware, our software, and most importantly to me, our instructional strategies that empower our teachers to innovate and inspire and engage all of our students. We will continue to do this through all the various avenues that are so wonderfully afforded to us as a district, through the cross-building meetings, study groups, and the intensive work that we've already started this year and will continue to do next year with our instructional coaches. Our investments through the 25-26 budget will continue to emphasize creativity, design, collaboration, and joy. We aim to support student-led projects that align with their unique interests and talents to make school a place that embraces all of our learners, how they learn, and pushes them to really examine what school can be.
That joy picture is one of my favorites.
I know, it's so good. The 25-26 budget also reflects the integral role that technology plays in our capital projects and the integration between technology and our future facilities with technology in all of our renovated spaces, the CET library, the Innovative Learning Center, the amphitheater, the cafeteria, Spencer Field, the CET auditorium, I call it the auditorium, but it's a multi-purpose room, and the gym, the high school gym. So in order to do this, our proposed budget reflects strategic investments that align with those guiding principles that I shared earlier. And some changes include a slight reduction in our BOCES services, while some increase in our OCS, which is our contractual services. For the extended purchases in hardware. We've extended some purchases in software in order to have some more district-wide software tools that are more consistent for students. And the supplies and others cover the iPads and displays and device care, as well as the professional development that our teachers will be experiencing. And of course, for our visual learners, a model of the breakdown of how the 25-26 budget is broken down district-wide and by school. Looking ahead, we aim to continue the iPad rollout. So our K-8 environment is fully on iPads, and that our teachers are on a similar continue to have the professional development to support that rollout. Build out a comprehensive K-12 STEAM curriculum. I've been working with the teachers this year to do so. Continue to upgrade our infrastructure, increase opportunities for student creation, streamline the classroom technology experience. So in closing, the 25-26 technology and innovation budget ensures that we're building a future-ready learning community where every Tiger thrives. So thank you for your support. Any questions?
I have just one question, just to understand, and seeing that the numbers, they're, you know, the PVC portion is a little bit higher than the other
Yeah.
schools. You just mentioned that the seventh graders got iPads this year, but that's also on the budget for next year for eighth graders, so is it this year seven? I just trying to understand which cohort that
Yeah.
iPads for grade 8 refers to in next year's budget.
Yeah, it technically will be going to, they'll all roll up with theirs, so I guess it'll technically be for the fifth graders that will be coming in and it will roll up so that all grades will have the iPads.
So
But
so PVC will fully be
So
on iPads by
PVC will
next
be
year.
fully on iPads, but I guess the new iPads will be, technically the new iPads will be going to the fifth graders.
Right,
And the rest of the grades will just carry those up.
and when you were talking about the rollout, just because I know you've mentioned that like the Chromebook technology we're happy, very happy, I think, to be stepping away from it, just because these are more user friendly. At CET, are we across the board now with K through 4 or not quite yet?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
So we're as of September, we'll be K3 with our iPads. And so we'll have fourth grade still on Chromebooks
Okay,
for one more year.
that's great, thank you.
So on that, you
Yes.
would assume that a year after next, everybody K8 will be using iPads.
Yes.
So I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
And so
You got
one.
one.
I got the floor.
First presentation, you got one.
No, it just, when we look at the budget and the
Yes.
big change, it's, you can see is an 82% difference between this year and next year
Yeah,
in supplies other. And we talked about the
Yeah.
fact that this year, whether it was in the adopted budget or by, smart work by you,
sure.
we were able to provide iPads in 3 grades, 2, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
Next year, we're thinking about 3 and 8. But that number is much larger. And what are the components of that 82%, 83% increase other than the cost of new iPads, which are not, which are
Sure.
kind of about the same in terms of the number of grades as this year and next year. So what's built into that?
Yeah, that's actually, thank you for that question. So it is built in the student devices, right, teacher devices, as well as some of the other capital project technology, major project technology. And that, like, the supplies and other, it's durable materials and supplies, I guess, combined together. And so a lot of the materials that we'll be providing for any of our like device care, our repair, like the Chromebooks that we still have that we need to repair, that budget is in that. We also in that is our display boards, the 20 boards that I was talking about, so that's in there. And yeah, so that's what's in there. I'm trying to think what else is in that line. But basically, a lot of the money is just moved around because we have a lot of infrastructure projects with our switches going on, with the batteries. And so that also goes into.
So it sounds like when you're back here a year from now, that number will not necessarily go back to 168,000 because there will be more things that we'll be doing. But it could go down somewhat because the future facilities work will be close to being done, I would presume. And also, I think the rollout of iPads K8 will pretty much be done, which leads me to my other question.
and this is more kind of an exciting thing for you, is the future projects you've talked about. The last two items were increase opportunities for student creation and streamline the classroom technology experience. And I'm thinking particularly with regard to the work that we're doing in the areas of student-centered projects and or interdisciplinary courses. What do you envision are the kinds of things that might fit into that we can perhaps look forward to and that you'll be thinking about?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a really exciting opportunity, right? Our students now are already creating, with just a couple of months, right? Our teachers and, our teachers with just a couple of months of professional development, have transferred that knowledge into their classroom and providing those experiences for their students already. Creating multimedia projects. I have a second grade class that wants to create stop motion video, right? Really interesting opportunities for students to think critically, be creative. The amount of cognition that goes into not just writing a story, but writing and creating. Writing and turning something into a visual piece, a multimedia piece, right? Whether that's video, that's audio, that's podcasting, and that's happening, right? Yesterday I had a PD with 6th grade levels worth of teachers, and I had samples of iMovies from 2nd grade and 6th grade, and I think it was an 11th grade public policy class here at the high school. And the continuum of skills that students right now are developing as they sample the creation in iMovie. It's phenomenal. It's really exciting. I can't wait to see the integration of that, work with George here at the high school to see how we can elevate his CHHS TV production, bring those skills into the greater community. I'm already talking to teachers at PBC about like immersive reality. We had a whole PD on augmented reality yesterday, and how students can not only consume augmented reality, but create their own augmented reality and augmented reality world, because as we know, sorry, I could keep going on this, but as we know, our surgeons are studying with like AR cadavers, right? Our engineers are collaborating across the continents on building the latest motorcycle, the latest car, right? And it's all through AR technology. And so this is the world. And so yesterday's professional development with teachers was just giving them a sample of how students can very easily, with the devices we're providing them, create their own augmented reality world and then bring that into these 3D creations. And I'm actually sharing some photos of that in the board weekly, but it's very exciting to see. But yeah, immersive reality, who knows what it's very exciting to think about. And we have teachers that are on board, right? Mark Malloy is chomping at the bit at PBC to dive into it. And Ashley Lookfor is also already creating some of these projects and steamrolling ahead. So it's a one, she is, it's a really wonderful community to be surrounded by like-minded creative thinkers that are willing to take risks with their instruction and are really embracing these technology products as a tool for all students to engage in learning. Sorry, I know that was a long-winded answer, but I get really excited.
I want you to ask that because I knew that was exciting for you and for us, because, it's not just switches and, infrastructure.
That's not the fun part.
Very quickly, what's a core switch? Sorry, I don't, that's an embarrassing question, but I don't know.
As of August, I didn't know really either. So all the switches are, it's where our internet comes in and then like it tells it where to go. Once it comes in from the outside,
Got it.
the core switch is the main one within the building, right?
Got it.
So it has, it's like the brains of each building. So it tells like where all the internet needs to go and how fast it needs to be like sent, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so that's,
Got it.
unfortunately, these things are really expensive too. Who would have thought?
I was thinking that. My other question, I think, revolves around what you were just talking about, essentially kind of the advanced technology and
Mhm.
I guess my question is really about how you decide, because I imagine there's so many different kinds of things you could expose our kids to, right? And so how do you decide what to pursue? And I assume some of that is in conversation with teachers, how much of it is in conversation with students, and how do you find out like what to put in front of them essentially?
Yeah, I think all of the above, A, B, and C, right? I think the C being, I think both by nature and by nurture, I'm a bit of a nerd. And I have a really wonderful collection of colleagues that are also tech nerds. And a wonderful community that talks about and shares a lot of resources around like, what is the world of technology today and where is it evolving? And I think that constant research and learning and staying abreast of what's happening in real world industry, I think is really important for someone that sits in my seat, right? To know that medical schools are, you know, dissecting real AR cadavers, right? That's really important because how does that translate to a second grader, right? How do I get them on the path to understanding a virtual world in 3D? And so yeah, we all spend time together geeking out about what's happening in the real world. We often talk about AR, we talk about VR, AI in education and the role of that. And so all of these things are really important for us to educate our students and think about the ethics behind it. And so a lot of it's driven by students, but a lot of it's driven by our own research as to what's happening in the world.
Thanks.
I actually have just a few questions with respect to the edutech increase, and that's just like desktop support, right, for our teachers, or is it more than that?
It's more than that.
Go ahead.
So Miguel is actually, he's a network engineer, so he's the brains behind the whole system, or somebody in his position. He manages all our servers, the internet that comes into our district, all the infrastructure, right? It's his job to manage that. He also manages our phone systems, right? So Miguel is yes, he can be help desk tickets and solving computer problems, but his specialty is really in our infrastructure. And so while he is one of our full-time people on staff through EduTech, we also have we're increasing for the 25-26 school year to have another full-time technician that will be a help desk, and a part-time technician that will be a help desk. So, but a level 2 help desk. So better than I can fix your Chromebook, a level better than that, right? So someone with more experience, someone with more knowledge, someone that can also troubleshoot in our management system, our Mosel, which is our Apple management system, someone that can go in and set Active Directory passwords, right? So someone with more expertise than just break and fix.
And where is that reflected?
That's in our OCS.
The OCS.
Yeah, because that's the contract services.
Right. And then with respect to, you know, onloading all of the new iPads for everyone, I know previously there had been discussion with respect to the replacement
Yes.
So that was like a key element in making that switch. I don't know if you could just speak to that a little.
Yeah, one of the benefits of bringing on iPads over Chromebooks, when I recycle a Chromebook, I'm lucky if I get a dime per Chromebook, right? Just from the metals of it, basically. When I recycle an iPad, based on the condition, it pretty much as long as the screen is not cracked and it's in pretty good condition, I'm getting anywhere from $75 to $100 per device when I recycle it, right? So, and that money comes back into the general fund and then can be used for other projects and initiatives that we have in the district. So the, while when you look at the sale price of an iPad to a Chromebook, they, you know, they're not so different. But then we get back $75 to $100 almost per device, when we replace it 4 years later. So, the return on investment is really great and we get, really good use out of it over the 4 years. The other piece of it is that the breakage rate on our Chromebooks is through the roof. It's, I mean, I have no idea why, but the breakage rate is insane. Our iPads this year, I think we've sent back 2.
Wow.
Yes, so it's such a difference, and the way it works with Apple is you break it, you let them know, they ship you one the next day, you ship the broken one back. And so there's really limited, like down, and we have extras also, right? So there's no downtime for the students to have a device in their hand that's set up, it's ready, that's run through our firewall system, right? That has all the protections that we need. So it's really remarkable. There's lots of benefits to it too.
That's great. And my final question is just with respect to the technology and innovation in our capital projects and our major projects. I don't know if you could just speak to some of the highlights that are happening just and because that's all exciting new stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, pretty soon, with Spencer Field hopefully coming online, some of it is the new scoreboard, right? That will be going up there. So that's all the wiring and everything my team is doing, the new scoreboard at Spencer Field, that will be all the integration between buildings and grounds and us. We're also we just met the other day, in the cafeteria, we're going to have digital displays throughout the cafeteria. So the menu board, high school, thank you, sorry. So that the menu boards will be all digital, it will show and be able to be updated digitally, it'll show what the menus are for the day. We also can post announcements on there if we need to, today's an A day or, times and such, we can program all that. Our point of sale system is all the integration with the technology department. We also will have, the cafeteria will double as a presentation space. So if, Dr. Dubak wants to have a parent night, we can have it in there. So we're putting a sound system in there with speakers and microphones, as well as digital displays, so that she can have an event in there. We can have an event in there. So that would be really nice to have those displays in there. We also are working on the auditorium, doing the AV equipment in there, the screens, the projectors, the soundboard, all of that. So we're collaborating across those. Obviously, the video production, that was a lot of collaboration. And then the enhancement with the DJ equipment, that was something that was added on.
Innovative Learning Center.
The Innovative Learning Center, all the screens and sound systems in there, and the sound dampening systems even in there. So that's all in collaboration. Also, the CET library, with all the, it's going to be really interesting because it's gonna have different like instructional zones. And so making sure that there's the right technology to match the instructional zones and the purpose of each of those spaces. And the right networking cables that we needed for those spaces, as well as, you know, the boring stuff, right? Like the access points and the phones, you know, like not the fun jazzy things. And also, last but not least, we're supporting the multi-purpose room with, at CET with a new projector, a new screen, a new sound system, things like that. So, there's a lot going on.
So that would seem that when I asked the question about future years, that number for supplies, et cetera,
Yes.
is that out of the capital fund?
Yeah, so a lot of that's out of the capital fund, but there always seems to be like, there, like cables that we need to buy or some extra TVs, right? Like, cause like the capital funds, or like, you know, getting the EduTech staff here to do the installs or, right, like, there's always like the extra stuff. So I did pad some of the budget to make sure that everything was, that we were covered, to make sure that we had, you know, that we're gonna have enough money for the TVs, for the cafeteria, the cabling. If we needed a new switch because there's all of a sudden this big drain, because of the Innovative Learning Center, because of the cafeteria, that we need an extra piece of equipment at the high school, right? So I just wanted to make sure that we were covered, because that would be bad.
Neil, if you remember when we started the capital project, we had a very small equipment and furniture budget. So our general fund budget is supplementing where we went short.
So that yields one related question.
Yeah.
You mentioned new technology in classrooms.
Yeah.
For things that Prometheus.
Yeah.
20 new
Yeah.
such devices. I'm just wondering, because I remember, I've been around long enough to remember when smart boards came in.
Yeah,
And teachers, you know, some teachers loved them
yeah,
and some teachers didn't.
Yeah.
And some knew how to use them and some didn't.
Yeah.
It took a long time. So what's happening longer term in terms of providing teachers classrooms with that as appropriate with that technology? Because we've seen in the past how those Prometheus boards, you know, allow you to do things and manipulate.
it's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, how do you see that in terms of a timeline for getting everybody who needs or desires that technology in the classroom?
Yeah, it's really exciting because right now, based on the installs that are finishing tomorrow, we will now have every teacher, every space in our building, either on a new line board, which is like the one behind you, or a Promethean board. And we're actually starting the replacement cycle of those first new lines, right? So the next set of Prometheans that we purchased will be to replace the very first new lines that we purchased, right? So it's really exciting. It's a really exciting time, because every classroom that we have has a board that's within 4 years, 4 years old, right? Next year will be the 5th year on a lot of our boards, and they're showing it, which are those very first new lines. And so, yeah, so they'll start getting the new Promethean boards, which is great. The teachers are loving it. The software is different than what, you know, the previous boards were, but we've had Promethean in district, the trainers for Promethean in district, I think about 6 times already. I think they're actually going to be providing an optional PD tomorrow for the teachers that just got their boards over the last 2 days. Actually, for here at the high school, because they got the newest version of the board. So that's happening, and so it's been great. The response by teachers has been really exciting. It's fun to see. It's fun to see the rollout happen, and the teachers realize that there's so much more that they can do with their devices.
I actually had a really quick question.
Yeah.
And that was, I'm excited to see that we're gonna be at, nearly all K through 8, by the end of next year. And then I know our high school has a bring your own device policy. But for those students who don't have devices, will we be continuing to support with Chromebooks? What will be the?
Yes, so, for this year, we're going to continue to support with Chromebooks and to provide them with the option to take a district Chromebook. I didn't feel like I can't make that decision as to what device is appropriate for high school students, on my own. And so I need to pull together a team to make that and to what the next steps are for high school technology. And so I needed more time, before I changed something or did something, which I know is shocking to Steve for to hear that I needed time, because I usually just do. But yeah, so for next year, we're continuing with the Chromebooks. And then one of my hopes is over the course of the 25-26 school year is to get some people in the room, put our heads together and think about, what do we need to do for high school students.
Okay, thank you.
Just one quick note outside, if you could scroll back one slide, just for the community's understanding, this is something that we started doing in earnest last year, and you'll see it with Christine's, I think it's the last slide in the presentation entitled Future Goals. One of the things that we've been thinking about is getting the system away from thinking about budget and our functions, our vision in 10 or 12 month increments and start thinking about longer term trajectory, multi-year trajectories. So for anyone in the community who's saying, what does future projects have to do necessarily with the 25-26 budget? The answer is a little bit, right? There are things that on that list, for example, of Ellen's vision, the district's vision related to technology that will be partially involved in 25-26 work and funding. But longer term, when Ellen's back here this time next year, talking about this work, it's not a surprise to anyone in the system because it's been part of a systemic conversation and community conversation for years. So you'll see the same thing from Rachel's presentation, from the principal's presentation. That's kind of our orientation about trying to get longevity in the work included through the budget process.
Thank you so much. I think we can all kind of feel how excited you are about the work that's going on. It's really great. And you know, your insight into everything in the budget is it's exciting to be a part of it. So thank you so much for coming and presenting the board tonight.
Thank you.
Moving on to athletics, PE, health and wellness. We should have Carly here introducing you.
Okay, so this is an overarching theme here, building a stronger future in athletics, physical education and wellness. Some new additions for the 24-25 school year that I'm going to talk more into. We have strength and conditioning coach support, game time radio, unified sports, JV boys volleyball, basketball, modified intramurals, the expansion of CET upper, the addition of our girls wrestling team, and some new branding. So one of the new programs that we're offering here is strength and conditioning on Saturdays with Coach Joanne. Our kids are coming into the weight room Saturdays at 9 or 10 a.m. and this is open to 7th through 12th grade students. And they've been working on strength and conditioning, sports specific, and learning the proper form and technique, how to use a lot of this equipment in the weight room. In the picture on the left, Coach Joe is holding up a limited edition Croton Norman weightlifting t-shirt that the students look at. And they have to attend 8 sessions in order to get that t-shirt. So some of our athletes are working hard.
Is that just students who are on athletic teams or?
No, we actually opened up to non-athletes as well, just to get students in and get their bodies moving.
Any chance I can get the t-shirt without going to the session?
One treadmill. And we are gonna move this in April till Fridays from 4 to 6, so it will be during the week, starting in the spring, so that we can hopefully get more.
Just one, both Fridays and Saturdays, or just
one? Yeah, just one. There's pictures here as well of unified bowling that Mr. Walker mentioned, so we just kicked off our bowling season and we are going to continue after bowling ends with basketball, and those basketball games will be played here. Some of them will be in our home gym and we'll be on the road as well, and we'll share the schedule. Some new teams that we added this year.
we added a boys JV volleyball program, which the volleyball program on the boys level is growing as well as the girls. So eventually we may explore the option of opening up for modified. The JV team won their first game this year. And we added girls wrestling. We have 2 girls wrestlers that are featured here. They also made it on News 12. We were the first school to hold the first girls multi-wrestling meet, so News 12 came and did some coverage on that. And the girls gained a lot of popularity for wrestling, so there is some talk that a lot more girls will be coming out next year, and we're looking forward to growing that program as well. The new technology that both Ellen and I were talking about, because we co-funded it, right? Is Game Time Radio that is being rolled out softly right now, but you'll see it a lot more when the new Spencer Field is online. We have a little demo. This is geared specifically towards the Tigers. So the commercials that you hear are for the Tigers. And this will, it can do announcing as well. So when we have homecoming, you can input lineups, you can put sport specific messages, and it's all pre-recorded, as well as streaming clean music that our phys ed teachers are using in the gyms during class, and that we'll be using at our games.
This is Game Time in the home of the Croton Harmon Tigers. When it's game day for the Croton Harmon Tigers, the soundtrack is Game Time.
Champions, the champions. Hey, we gon' ball, never fall, the champions. Thunderstruck! Thunderstruck! Yeah, thunderstruck!
So that's just a little sample. We also started intramurals in the winter with basketball. So we had a large number of kids who were trying out for both boys and girls basketball. We could not keep those numbers. So what we did is any students who didn't make the team joined this intramural program. It was once a week for an hour and a half. And they were working specifically on developing their skills so that they hopefully come back out for the basketball team next year as 8th graders, or if they're entering into the high school as a 9th grader, that they'll try out. And it was a great success. They had a good time, and all of the coaches said that they saw a vast improvement from the beginning of the program to the end. So this is something that we hope to continue. Some branding opportunities that we have, you see in the middle, that's our newer Tiger logo. It has the Croton Dam in the back. So we ordered a new step and repeat, as well as tablecloth for some of our photo opportunities when our students are heading off to college. We have 2 students here that are going to the University of Nebraska and Binghamton. So we had some photo opportunities, as well as you might have seen on our social media. Our athletes who made it to the States were taking pictures in front of our step and repeat, and it's been shared on social media as well as in the Gazette. Some athletic highlights from this fall. Happy to report that we had 8 teams who earned Scholar Athlete team status, as well as 116 individual student scholar athletes for our fall, which is one of our bigger seasons. This is that you have a GPA of 85 or higher, as well as we had girls soccer as league champions. Coach Winston, who is our varsity head coach, was coach of the year. Gwen was our league player of the year, as well as named to the all-state soccer team. Boys soccer, girls volleyball, and boys volleyball all made playoff appearances for us this fall. Vivian was first place overall in the 50 free and 100 free at the conference championship meet for girls swim. And she also placed 20th in the 50 free and 18th in the 100 meter free at the New York State Championships this fall for the Tigers. Yeah, impressive. In the winter, we had 5 scholar athlete teams and 52 individual student scholar athletes in the winter. Winter is a smaller season for us, so that's why the numbers are a bit lower. We had Dylan placed 12th in the 100-yard butterfly and 16th in the 100-yard backstroke for boys swim. Henry was 6th in the state for wrestling. We had a second wrestler who made it to states as well, but was young. So Coach Buccello says he'll be back next year and should have a better year on the mat. Kai placed 16th in the state in the giant slalom and ski. And we talked about unified sports. Girls basketball made it to the second round of playoffs and we're league champions. Wrestling is league champions, and Coach Buccello is up for coach of the year. So those are some exciting highlights from our winter. Boys basketball also made it to the first round of playoffs. We had our first ever girls wrestling multi-meet. Our modified cheer program grew. We're up to 12 girls and it looks like it can extend into the high school next year. And we brought back our youth teams playing at halftime during the winter season for basketball. Here's some of those highlights. Moving on to physical education and health. I'm happy to report that we have our staff presenting at the BOCES Collegiate Circle. One of our phys ed teachers, Miss Leslie, is launching the first ever phys ed collegial circle for BOCES. So we're looking forward to that. Carrie Tracy is presenting weight stigma and anti-fat bias for BOCES. We had Mr. McDonald and Miss Leslie both present self-defense at our local AFER conference that was in the Bronx, but it covers Westchester and the Hudson Valley. They also presented at the state level conference up in Turning Stone along with Miss Tracy. She was presenting as well. And then our phys ed teachers and health teachers are working on passion projects for phys ed. Students are going on field trips like Ninja Warrior and bowling. These are units that they're working on in the gymnasium, and they're using these field trips as a culminating event to tie the unit together and show kids that they can continue to do these activities, sports and games after they leave the gym. There's more pictures. For wellness and athletics, Girls on the Run is expanding this year into middle school, so they have an elementary and middle school program now. We're working on a wellness career fair where we're going to invite individuals or organizations that are around the fitness, health, wellness, so different things all around health, physical education, overall wellness, and they'll present to our students. And one of the things coming in May is a sports fair. This is actually brought by one of our 8th grade student athletes who recognize that there is a decline in some of our sports programs starting in about 4th grade, and she wants to bring more awareness to the different sports opportunities that are both offered in the community as well as here in the middle and high school. And she's focusing specifically on trying to grow female athletes coming out for sports teams. So in May, we're going to have all of our sports teams for all 3 seasons set up tables in the gym and outside on the field. And we'll have our student athletes there explaining to the younger kids who are coming. We're going to open up probably to 2nd grade through 8th. They'll tell them all of the different sports opportunities that are available in the middle of high school, as well as the community. There will be demonstrations. They're going to have a bingo card of sorts where if they go to each table, they'll get a sticker and they'll get a prize at the end. Our booster club is going to be there. It's going to be a fun day. That's just going to highlight some of the great things that we have going on in the district. So for 25-26, we have, of course, Spencer Field, our new complex coming. We're gonna have more games under the lights. We'll have new scoreboards and shot clocks in the main gym at the high school. We're gonna have intramural sports offerings to keep kids playing sports and hopefully not lose them. Additional unified sports offerings, as Mr. Walker said, bocce. There's talk of possibly adding flag football as well. We're gonna add additional huddle cameras that will cover CET upper. With the new field expansion, we're able to now play varsity boys and girls lacrosse, as well as varsity soccer, both boys and girls, and JV. So there'll be huddle coverage there. We're adding 2 huddle cameras to the end lines in the gym that will cover volleyball. We also are gonna have a huddle camera at baseball. And one of those huddle cameras is portable, so it can go down and cover the softball as well. This is the 2025-26 proposed budget to make some of the things that we would like to happen in athletics. Take a look. Our proposed budget reflects strategic investments that align with our grounding principles. Some key changes here are the athletic admin salaries. You see a slight increase there for support. You have a slight increase in the coaching and event salaries. Supervision. The increase in the equipment is to reflect the scoreboard upgrades. And then you have your BOCE services line that covers a lot of different things for athletics.
Christine, will you just share some of the components of the BOCES?
Yeah, under that line, there's interscholastic office staffing that helps for the coordination of interscholastic athletic contests for the school district. It covers your official fees for referees. as well as mileage reimbursement. It covers section 1, which is our section that we play our sports in. It's the base and team fees for being part of the section and participating in the competitions. You have your winter seasons for the sports programs that includes coaching and equipment under the athletic line. Huddle software, which is all of the things that are being recorded, is covered under there. Family ID, and injury management, which is our software that we use to register for all of our sports. It also has an injury management component that accident reports can be entered into so that they're shared with the school nurse. And then it also covers our physical education and health education, section 1, BOCES consortium, which provides professional development to our health and phys ed teachers. And then you'll see the supplies line as well. That's for other equipment and additional programs.
Question on that, if I may. I know in years past, there's always been questions about uniform replacement and whether or not our uniforms, which I know sometimes get recycled from varsity to JV, but I recall that there have been instances where uniforms have really not been great for some teams. How are we doing on that, and what kind of replacement is incorporated in the supplies and other for this next year?
So we have a running inventory list of all of our uniforms. They've been inventoried. Anytime we get new uniforms, we reflect this in the inventory list. And as you said, most of the times it is the varsity teams that are getting the uniforms, and it goes down to JV or modified. In some cases where they're, we had to order girls soccer uniforms on a modified level this past year. It was the first time we've had the team in a while. So there is cases where we're ordering uniforms for the younger levels, and it's really dependent on the need, depending on the condition that the uniforms are in, or if we have more students coming out for a sport and we need to order more uniforms. The uniform's still in stock. We can order more of them, and I can order single ones. Some cases we have to order a new set.
Right. But I guess my question was that I recall in some, well before you were here, there were teams where student athletes or their parents came and said, the uniforms we've got they don't fit, they're mismatched, they're old, they got holes in them. We don't have any of that issue at the moment, do we?
No.
Good.
And here's a breakdown for the budget. So here's some future goals for athletics. The plan is to strengthen our modified level programs. This is eventually gonna trickle up into the high school. We're seeing that some of our JV and varsity sports are struggling with numbers, and it is the sports that haven't had a modified program. So the plan is to try to bring back modified on all levels, and that will grow our numbers. And eventually, when we get up to the high school, we'll have robust numbers for JV and varsity. Steve said, longer short term, this is a longer term goal. It's not something that's gonna happen in 1 year. And the hope is eventually down the line that we have both modified JV and varsity, so all 3 levels for all of our sports. We're also gonna enhance coaching development and mentorship for new coaches. So we plan to bring in professional developments for our coaches. We had one this year around mental health that was ran by the JCK Foundation. We want to plan to continue that work, as well as offer mentorship for new coaches, both new to our district or new to coaching. We want to pair them with a coach that's been doing this for a while so that they can kind of help them and guide them. And one thing that we are working hard to do is increase attendance at all of our Tiger games. I'm hoping with the new Spencer Field and games underneath the lights that will have an increase in our attendance. That's also part of bringing the youth programs back at halftime. We plan to do more events like that. We brought back the 3-point contest this winter, and we're offering prizes. So look for more things like that in the future. For physical education, we're looking to modernize the curriculum with new fitness movement trends, focusing on student engagement. We're also developing new electives at the high school. Again, that's a longer term goal that we'll be working on. So that's gonna be over the next 2 years. And then excuse me, we're gonna integrate more technology like fitness tracking and virtual learning in phys ed. For health, we're looking to modernize, enhance mental health and wellness education. We're also working on navigating social media and evaluating credible sources in the era of health information overload. Miss Tracy and Miss Butts are working with the kids to let them know what resources you should be looking for in this time where there's just an overabundance of resources coming at our students that are not always the best sources. We're also working on connecting students with community resources that support them beyond their time at PVC or CHHS. And that is what I have for athletics, PE, and health.
Do you have any questions?
I have a question. I'll go first. Okay, I wanted to hear a little bit, first of all, I'm so excited to hear about the intramural program. And I would like to know was this the first year that we had done that at PVC with it was with basketball, it looked like from the pictures.
Yeah.
So this is our first time doing it, and it's a result of basically, we had so many students who were interested in modified that we wanted to ensure that there was a place for them to continue. So I think that sounds so fantastic, and I feel very excited just hearing about this renewed focus on modified also as a pipeline. The other thing I'm super, super excited to hear about is the sports fair, which sounds amazing. And it also sounds like that's a little bit student driven.
Yes.
Which is really, really exciting. So the thing I want to say about this, just as a parent, is like sometimes our kids don't think of themselves as athletes. In my family, we have a person who was not an athlete until they got to middle school. They didn't do ASO, they didn't do Little League, they didn't do, like any of the other community sports. And so it was that opportunity of sort of being exposed to it in the school. And now this person is like on a varsity team in high school. So I feel like it has proven to be really successful. I also love the idea of, again, we're talking about like cross-grade interaction and that sort of mentorship, which is, I know one of our district goals also is to get our high school students, including our high school athletes, to sort of be interacting with kids across the district. I commend you on pursuing all this. It sounds really great, Christine.
Thank you.
One quick question on unified courts. Have you heard anything about interest in ultimate frisbee? Because that would be a very good unified sport, and I know it's very popular in some.
Yeah,
places.
I have not heard anything. I know that the rec center offers an ultimate frisbee program here at PVC on Friday. So some middle school students are participating in ultimate frisbee. I haven't heard anything on a unified level, but it is quite popular on Fridays here.
I actually just have one question or one, if you could just speak to, because I know there was a lot of fundraising going on by individual teams and emails and chains that were being shared. If you could just speak to the relationship of that fundraising by individual teams versus the boosters versus what this budget supports, to offer the community clarification on that.
Sure, so the fundraising that is done is strictly through the Booster Club, and like we work together in athletics. And one of the more popular fundraising efforts this past year was the phone-a-thon, where a lot of the teams were calling family members and friends and asking for a donation. And that money goes strictly to individual teams, right? The Booster Club oversees that account. And they are able to use that money as a team for lots of different things. It could be merchandise, it could be for them to go to camps or clinics. It could be for somebody to come in and run a camp or clinic. It could be for trips, like the baseball team goes to Florida. So that is fundraising that's all separate from athletics that the Booster Club kind of leads. They also do car washes, was another popular fundraiser that they did, and that money goes directly back to whichever team is hosting the fundraiser, and they use it at the discretion of the team, and the Booster Club oversees that.
Thank you, and then I would just ask, final question, with respect to examining intramurals and modified and all of that. I also have students or children who've entered kind of like at the middle school, and I, as a student athlete myself, kind of entered at different points, having moved around a lot, and I love the opportunity to do that for students who feel they're trying to find their place in the district. I think it's so important. Is there any consideration given to the timeline with which the different programs are rolled out? Because I know in the past, some of the modified programs are offered first, and then there's not enough interest, and then the timeline for like JV and varsity. So it's almost like you try out, and then if you don't make it, there isn't an opportunity to go back and kind of re-examine some of the other. I mean, I don't know if that's been your experience,
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about,
like field hockey, for
Right.
instance, like girls field hockey, you know, it's like, there was a year where there wasn't a lot of interest. And then students were kind of pushed to other things, and if that didn't work out, there wasn't an opportunity to kind of go back and re-examine if, in light of that.
yeah, I mean, one of the things that we're working on that I hope helps drum up interest is we've spoken to our phys ed teachers and our coaches about them going down into the elementary and middle school and offering like a week or 2 week mini lesson on these different sports. So like one of our lacrosse coaches is gonna go in and do a week in CET with lacrosse to expose the kids at a young level, and then hopefully get them playing youth lacrosse until they're able to play middle school lacrosse in 7th or 8th grade. So that's a way of exposing them, I think, at a younger age and trying to grab them and not lose them. As far as the timeline to roll out, it's really gonna be based on, I'm watching the numbers, all right, of who's registering on Family ID. And we're looking at how do we offer the best experience to our kids who make the team, because you don't wanna have a basketball team that has 25 kids on it because of the playing time, and it's not a win for anybody, and it becomes hard for coaches to manage. And that's where we would supplement that intramural sport, so we don't lose those other kids that we unfortunately may have to cut to make sure that the experience is a good experience for everybody across the board. So the timeline is gonna kind of be rolling as we're piloting this and experimenting with it, and I think we'll have to gauge it over time and see what works best.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for also bringing back scholar athletes, because that hadn't been, and the kids were so excited to see their names and to see that their academics, you know, it's considered with respect to how they balance, because for a lot of our student athletes, it's a huge amount of balance to be a practicing at games and dealing with finals and prepping for all sorts of things that are happening, so thank you.
No problem.
It will surprise no one, just thinking about entry points for a second. My entry and exit point was modified. May not surprise me.
So you weren't in CHHF,
Yes, that's
right?
right. Yes.
You didn't have the opportunity, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would just like to commend both Ellen and Christine for this wonderful presentation and all of the thoughtful planning that went into it. This, you know, all of our administrators play a pivotal role in budget development, but this year in particular, it was a little tougher this year, and this being the first year. They were so flexible and, you know, I can't tell, how many times did I say, you gotta go back? You gotta go back, you gotta cut more, and they were like, okay. They went down, they really dove into their budgets, and it was really a pleasure working with you, and they did a wonderful job.
Very, very well done. Very-
Thank you both so much.
Oh, and they strategically advocated for their departments by combining their wish lists. So we are co-sponsoring this, so I had to fight two to get one. Okay.
Smart.
That's why they Yeah, well done.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good morning.
Moving on to our third area of new business, item 3.1. Discussion regarding board policies on first reading. At this point, I will turn the presentation and the head of this discussion over to Neil Hager, our policy committee chair.
Thank you, Ellen. On the agenda for first reading are 5, 6, 7, 8 policies. Each of them address an issue that was brought to the board by a member of the community, that there are certain policies in which the word citizen is contained, where in fact the policy should not be limited to citizens, but rather to members of the community, such things as visitors to the schools or budget planning, where the word is in there. Many of these policies date from 1994, when the district purchased its policy package from NISBA. And although NISBA continues to use citizens, we do not make a differentiation in any areas of our policies or practices by requiring individuals to be citizens, except for qualifications to be member of the board or qualifications to vote, which is limited to citizenship by state law. So what the committee has done is gone to each of the policies in which the word citizen appears and has considered the revision of those policies to say members of the community. That's what you will have in each of the items, including policy 2260, which was called the Citizens Advisory Committees, and the regulation called it Citizens Advisory Committees Regulation, which we are recommending to the board to change to Community Advisory committees, just so that we can ensure we have the widest breadth of people who will support us when a advisory committee is established. There are some other changes that the committee is recommending that you'll see in these policies relating to language updates and clarifications. The committee, and this kind of precedes board reports, will be meeting on March 26th. So any comments that anyone has these policies, get them to us before March 26th so that we can discuss them and have these ready for, and then these policies ready for second reading on April 10th, I believe it is. I will add that there are other policies in which the word citizens appears that, in addition to changing that word to community members, the committee determined that there are other issues that the committee wishes to explore on the modifications that might be made. So those are still going to be worked on, and those will be presented in due course. So anybody have any comments? Please get them to me by in advance of the 26th. Oh, and there's a typo.
Yeah. 21, yeah.
Okay.
Visitation, not.
Yeah.
Well, we
This
did
is
have,
my copy.
we did have a discussion that there may be a typo
Yeah.
in the wording, but I know we looked at visits and visitations, those are synonyms, so. I
It
think-
just doesn't have an N on the
There's
end,
a-
so
Okay,
it's
I'm gonna- yeah, I'll fix that.
visitatio.
Well, we'll fix that.
So that's a new word we invented.
Created for us.
Distraction as a committee, the administration wasn't there, so we ran with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah, I just wanted to take a minute to thank the chairperson of the committee for actually doing a lot of the work and finding all of these policies and preparing what was a very thoughtful response to something that came out of community concern. So thank you for that.
you're welcome.
If there's no other
I just
discussion.
want to add that as we look at them, we did not find anything, except for some minor things that would be substantive. But it's also an opportunity, if anybody sees anything that raises a question that we should consider on a more substantive basis than that which we have said, please feel free to let us know.
There's no other discussion regarding that. Moving on to item 4.1, policies for second reading. I will again refer to the policy committee chair.
Thank you, Ellen. On the list of policies that the policy committee approved for first reading, and are now here for second reading, are policies that we had discussed or provided previously, with some changes that we did, in particular with respect to the policy. Let me get it here. The policy 1740, relations with non-public schools, and the transportation policy for non-public schools 8413 and 81413R. Should note that with regard to those policies and policy 5152, we are recommending some slight revisions from what we saw in first reading. The first one is based on with regard to 5152.1, which is entitled now admissions of foreign students. That policy, as I discussed last month, relates to foreign students who are attending our schools on a visa status, non-resident visa status. To clear up any confusion or misapprehension about the admission of foreign students, the committee decided to recommend changing the title, revising the title to read admission of foreign students with F1 or J1 visas. As every other student, those students are not resident students. Someone who is in our schools through an F1 visa or a J1 visa is someone who's either here on an exchange program, F1, or a J1 is someone who has that visa and come to the United States under the regulations for a period of time to study, but they are not residents. And there's case law out there that says they are not considered residents. Even if they are living in someone's home, and it's actually one commissioner's decision in which the person with whom the child was living claimed, oh, they live here and I care for them, so they're a resident. And and the commissioner said they're not a resident because that person does not stand in parental relations under state law, and therefore doesn't have control over the education of the student. So we're recommending changing that title. Also to incorporate in the policy on relations with non-public schools and in the relation and the policies on transportation for students to non-public schools, to make clear that the district will not provide transportation to a student who is here on an F1 or a J1 visa, living in a home in the district and is attending non-public schools. We have no obligation under the law to do that. And in fact, that the commission decision I mentioned previously was because that parent or that person wanted the district to provide busing for that child to a non-public school and tried to claim, oh, they're really a resident, so you have to give busing to a non-public school student, and the commissioner said no. And so that here you will find was added in 1740 in the first section, the first sentence of the language on transportation, where it will now read transportation will be designed for non-public school students, parades with the exception of students on F1 visa, on F1 or J1 visa attending a non-public school in accordance with law and board policy. The other issue that is in 8413R is that the district received, a challenge was filed against the district by a parent of a child attending a non-public school where the schedule of that non-public school significantly diverged from our schedule. And that parent sought busing for the student to be brought home from school a couple hours later than our schools are done. And that would have created an additional cost to the district because we would have had to provide busing and pay for the transportation that would not accord with our general schedule for providing busing for students out of district. The commissioner decided and issued a decision actually the day before our March meeting, February meeting, saying that we had no obligation to provide that busing. And we could only be expected to or required to provide it if the provision of such transportation is reasonable under the circumstances, considering safety, convenience, efficiency, and the cost to the district. So in the third paragraph of policy 8413R, language has been added to set forth what was decided in appeal of KRNNF 64 Ed Department Report Decision number 184547, which was decided approximately a month ago. The last policy that we have on the agenda is, and we discussed this previously, is to codify our requirements to provide interpretive services for parents and guardians with hearing impairment, and also to incorporate in that policy that we will provide interpreters for parents with other needs for interpretive services, including ENL, parents for whom English is not their first language. This came to us because Dr. Paul mentioned our original our old policy, which has been there since 1994, said that we will go maintain a list of interpreters. And we have never done that. We don't have a list of interpreters. We have some people on staff. Otherwise, we utilize BOCES or utilize automated telephonic service. And so the policy also updates that. Our policies also contain 2 exhibits from 1994 about how someone could request and how someone would get a response for interpretive services for if they are hearing impaired, which never got used, nobody knew about it, so we're recommending just rescind. So that's everything that is on item 4.1, and I'll take any questions. And
not so much a question, but
sure,
on this one, I know that there
which one you
was
talk about?
on the interpretive services
Yeah.
one. I know that there is, and I guess you just clarified a little bit with additional language around the 10-day notification requirement. Or I guess preference in a way, because if there is not enough days between, it says, or as soon as possible, the meeting or activity is scheduled to occur less than 10 days. 10 cool days after notification has been given to the parent or guardian to enable the district to make the necessary arrangements for the interpreter or other accommodation. So I guess my comment here is that when I've gone to district events, parent-teacher conferences, et cetera, there actually have been interpreters available, right? And I've actually been very pleasantly surprised that they are that there are staff there that can provide the language services. I assume this 10-day thing doesn't really come into play that often, right? It's really maybe for a one-on-one meeting where someone comes in, but I assume that the staff really know beforehand that that parent or whoever might need interpretation services already. So it feels like this is the requirement, but in practice, interpretation services are pretty available, not only at those those events, but also in one-on-one sessions, I imagine.
When we access our current staff and translators that are available to us, you know, through, board appointment, here, aides, teachers that speak Spanish or Mandarin as a second language, they are easily accessible. We can email them and say, we need you Wednesday night, for a teacher conference. However, for example, on the elementary level, we needed about 8 translators on parent-teacher conference night. We didn't have enough translators on staff, so we had to access BOCES. BOCES has a 10-day minimum requirement for requesting a translator. Specifically, the hard-to-fill languages like Korean, there is Arabic, sign language. So they request that we make that request for services with 10 days window. They're typically able to fill it beforehand, but that is their requirement. But as far as us as a district accessing our pool of translators, that is not a requirement. But in the event that we need a sign language interpreter for a disciplinary meeting that's taking place, tomorrow, that may be problematic and difficult for us to secure someone through BOCES.
So it's really the BOCES.
Yeah, the
element of
outside
it.
services, yes.
And just a little bit further, I looked at other districts, and for example, Rochester says 48 hours, but Rochester is a very different district that has a lot more resources available than we do. So, it's something, it's basically, as Rachel said, it really depends on what our availability is. One of the things that we do have that can be a problem is that when you have, for example, a disciplinary matter, and there has to be a meeting with the parents before a suspension may be imposed, right? And you have to do that within a very tight time frame, or you need a superintendent's hearing to commence within 5 school days after, that initial suspension. That can be a problem if you have a parent or a student who is, it's not easy to get interpretive services, but we need to do that. That's, but in the normal course of events, as we said, our supplier basically wants 10 days, so. Unless
That's more for in-person interpretive services, not so much
Virtual as well.
for remote.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, if you think about it, if you had, for example, a CSE meeting that was being done remotely or done by video conference, you would need that same thing. And I would presume that while, there might be interpretive services that might be provided through some kind of technology, that's not, my experience only is, that's not gonna be sufficient, particularly when you have things that can be very nuanced, right? That's good.
I'll just chime in with just a brief comment about your comment, Theo, just about I don't think you meant actually necessarily pleasantly surprised about seeing interpretive services at some of those back to school nights, because I will say, I think Rachel's department has with intention made sure that there's adequate staffing. And I think part of the role, right, of our community aid team is also to make sure that there's a sense of who is coming on those nights, to ensure that in fact, there are people literally right there when you get to the door. So I think it's like a great, it's a good feeling, I think is what you were maybe referring to, like seeing all of that, but it's like with intention.
No, I
Very
could
much
tell
so.
it
Yeah.
was very intentional and well thought out.
Yeah.
So, that having been said, I guess, since this is an action item, I will move
Oh, I don't think you can because I have to read the recommended action first.
Oh, okay, okay.
Be it resolved, that the Board of Education hereby conducts a second reading and adopts the following board policies as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Another question we've already conducted. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Moving on to instructional personnel. Item 5.1. Recommended action, be it resolved that Crystal Meyer be appointed to a 1.0 leave replacement position for Lori Ann DeCalvo as a kindergarten teacher at Carrie Tompkins Elementary School, effective April 7th, 2025 through June 27th, 2025, subject to continued need unless terminated earlier by the Board of Education and compensated at an annual salary of $60,403. BA step 1 to be prorated.
So moved. Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Moving on to donations. Recommended action, be it resolved, the Board of Education gratefully accepts the donation of $500 from Pamela McQueenie for the Create Your Dream Scholarship at Croton Harmon High School. This scholarship is given to a graduating senior who intends to pursue a fine arts-related field in college. Preference is given to a student most in need of financial support, pardon me.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 6.2. Be it resolved, the Board of Education gratefully accepts a donation of $500 from Stephen and Leslie Pollock of the Lucille and Maurice Pollock Fund as contribution to the China trip at the Croton Harmon High School. This generous donation is being given.
That's on the motion, is it?
So please allocate the gift to the Mandarin class trip. I'm sorry?
Oh. No, that's already in the resolution.
It is, I just wanted to see if there was additional context by which it was being given. So it's $500 payable to the Croton Harmon High School District. Please allocate this gift for the Mandarin class trip.
Right. So I will move that.
Second. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Item 6.3. Donation by Suzanne and Neil Haber, the Jean Pearl Memorial Award. Recommended action, be resolved, the Board of Education gratefully accepts a donation in the amount of $200 from Neil and Susanna Haber as a contribution to the Jean Pearl Memorial Award at Croton Harmon High School. Neil, I'm sure you want to speak to this.
I do want to speak to this, yes. Jean Pearl, lifelong resident of this community, member of the Board of Trustees for 6 or 9 years in the 1960s, and again, 6 or 9 years in the late 1990s into the early 2000s. I was privileged to serve with Jean in that part of that latter part of second service. Jean was a very strong supporter of the transitional alternative program, TAC program at the high school, which provided, I guess I call it enhanced teaching and social emotional support for a group of students or students in our high school who had who had challenges and who needed that kind of support. That included classroom, a separate classroom, as well as students who flowed in and out or took some of their classes there, somewhat similar to our flex program. And Jean was a strong supporter of that program and a strong supporter, an attendee at various events that they had, such as their annual Thanksgiving dinner and their annual year-end award ceremony, which I also attended, even after Jean left. and left the board, and he then became an employee of the district. He was one of our part-time messengers during the latter part of his life, and then he passed away unfortunately a few years ago. And this award was created in his memory, and also to be granted to students whose, I guess we call them non-traditional, we would call them students who really were not necessarily going to be college going students. They may be going to trades, they may be going into military service. They may be, they're students such as those students who he was so supportive of in the TAP program. And, I've endeavored to keep that memory alive and to keep support for those students alive. I will say, however, I will abstain just because I shouldn't vote on something that's got my name on it.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you for your generosity.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
I abstain.
Your abstention is noted.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Action item 6.4, donation. Recommended action be it resolved, the Board of Education gratefully accepts the anonymous donation of DJ services donated for the senior prom at Quilton Harmon High School.
So moved.
I just do want to, I know that this individual doesn't want to be recognized, but it is a very generous donation to ensure that our seniors have a good time at their prom. It includes the DJ, the lights, the photo booth, through a very reputable entertainment company. While I respect the anonymity of the donation, I do want to just stress to the community that it's a very generous donation. We are very, very grateful. So.
Second.
I moved.
Yeah, Neil moved it, second.
I'll second.
On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Item 6.5, recommended action be it resolved the Board of Education gratefully accepts a donation of $100 from the Women's Club of Peekskill in Cortland as a contribution to the Peekskill Cortland's Women's Club Scholarship at Quilton Harmon High School. And this is given to a senior who ranks in the top 10 of the graduating class and is going to a 4-year college.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Item 6.6, it's the donation from the Quilton Harmon Boosters Club for various scholarships. Recommended action be it resolved, the Board of Education gratefully accepts a donation of $4,500 from the Quilton Harmon Booster Club as a contribution to the Booster Club scholarships. This is for individual scholarships, $500 each. It is then one Len Gober Award, which is one scholarship at $1,000. The Mary Brooks Award, which is an additional scholarship at $1,000. And the Steve Aguado Scholarship, which is one scholarship at $500. Details of these donations, these very generous donations are attached in our agenda. Do we have someone move? Yeah, Neil moves.
Second.
No seconds on the question.
Just, I think you should know, I think Mary Brooks is a former teacher in our school. I know Glenn Goldberg is a former physics ed teacher in our school, and we have had a discussion about Steve Aguado, who was a longtime supporter of athletic programs in the school. And then when it goes into our gymnasium, you will see a large photo banner after he was honored on Steve Aguado Day about 14 months ago.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Item 6.7, a donation from the Croton Harmon Booster Club for the rental of the vans for a baseball trip. Recommended action, be it resolved that the Board of Education gratefully accepts a donation of $1,927 from the Croton Harmon Booster Club as a contribution to the van rentals for the Croton Harmon baseball team trip to Florida.
So moved. Second.
On the question, my understanding that the baseball team goes to spring training and participates in a tournament every year in Florida, which is self-funded. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Moving into item 7.1 and the items contained in our consent agenda. Recommended action, be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby approves all items in the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
On the question, I just want to thank, Assistant Superintendent of Business, please, parents and Cohen for providing us information regarding all of the change orders.
Yeah, this is a culmination of change orders over the past probably 4 months. So we had some last month that were even back a little bit further. Some of these change orders are 100 pages long and involve a lot of payroll information, pricing information. So it takes quite a while to get through it all and to audit it. So it's a big bunch, but it's over probably the busiest time of the project. So
thank you for that.
Yeah, I just, that it's interesting having looked at those documents and then looking at your explanation that it's, those kinds of things that one does not anticipate. A lot of them, like, we opened up the wall and we found, oh, if we're gonna put this here, we gotta move the electric, or we gotta move a pipe, or,
right, they have to look at our plans and guesstimate that the plans are what is actually there. And they open the wall and there's actually been some changes made over the decades. So
there was one that I noticed there, which I didn't quite understand, and that is, there was one floor that was thicker than I thought. That was, I think, in
the high school.
the high school
Yes.
cafeteria.
Yeah, so we thought it was about 6 inches and it was double and it was like a concrete slab.
But I think that just kind of surprised me because that wasn't so long ago and one might have thought that we had documentation from 20 years ago, but I guess not.
Yeah, so what happens is, in the past, we used to have giant plans, that's all that we had. And then every time there was a change, you would actually take that change, tape it over those plans, and then they would just layer up. And now with the age of technology, you have bulletins that are generated and change orders, and that process has not translated well to building level plans. And I requested from KG&D for them to look at our plans and provide an updated plan. So it involves maybe in one space going through 20, 30 different bulletins. So the original design plus all of the bulletins and RFIs that affected that area. So it's a massive project, but I think that based on the amount of work that we've done on the project thus far and things that were not necessarily in the same shape that we had expected them to be previously, I think it's worth the investment to have a clean set of plans, both digitally and paper-wise.
Do you have a motion?
No, Dave. Say I move.
Second on the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. We now move into our close of the meeting and our second hearing of the public. If there is anyone who would like to address the board, please approach the podium and state your name and address for the record.
I apologize if I'm talking too loud or too soft. New technology and hearing aids doesn't last as long as the battery powered stuff. It's not our best, but gotta live with it. I was gonna talk about some other subjects, but I love to look at bulletin boards when I go into schools. And I noticed that in this school, the Pride Club predominates on bulletin boards, where you normally see, like a bulletin board outside a library, you would see 20, 50 items hanging from a bulletin board. One, there are very few bulletins out here, which makes me wonder what else is going on in the school. And then the Pride Club predominates. The Pride Club and its representatives you saw here, one of whom is your committee chairman or club president from the newly established Pride Club in CET, is also taking a disproportionate time in recommending medical and psychological help that has been proven wrong in the past. But this is what got my goat by looking at the bulletin board this time. They're bringing in one of the worst organizations, one of the most deadly organizations in the history of the United States, Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood, as you know, has been in the news in liberal newspapers for the wrong reasons. The Bible of the left is New York Times. New York Times has run articles on Planned Parenthood and this organization for having the CEO for bullying, for financial mismanagement, for racism, for mistreating their Black employees, and get this one, for mistreating their pregnant employees. This is about 3 or 4 separate different articles about Planned Parenthood. They're coming to this school. In addition, their clinics in the latest article are so filthy and their staff is so undertrained that it made a special article in the New York Times. New York Times never in the past has criticized Planned Parenthood. They give women who go there, as you may know, we have a boycott against CVS for the abortion drug RU46. They're a clinic which Westchester women use, Westchester girls use, and they're representatives. They send representatives into public high schools. I watch them get trained at Planned Parenthood. The ones that are going to be sent to this high school, the ones operating in this high school. Their clinic in Rockland County cannot distribute RU46 because of a lawsuit where they gave a woman RU46 without any examination, and she delivered at 18 years old a 30-week-old child stillborn in a toilet. Thank you.
On to, sorry. Item 8.2, board reports. We will start with advocacy.
Advocacy, so we have actually not had a meeting since our February, I believe, 12th meeting, so we reported on that meeting already at the last business meeting. We do have a meeting coming up on the 17th, so this coming Monday, and we'll report on that meeting. Some preliminary items, the Senate and Assembly One House budgets came out, I think it was Tuesday, which includes lots of updates and kind of the counter proposals from the State and Assembly to the governor's budget, including some modifications or potential modifications to the cell phone policy, some updates to state aid, so we'll review those in the advocacy meeting. As well as the conversation we had last time will continue around, Department of Ed at the national level and what impacts, the changes that the Department of Ed might have on the district. And then just starting to plan for some meetings potentially with legislators as we wrap up the budget season. Last year, the budget passed at around April 20th. I think folks are expecting around the same timing for this year. So we'll have some time to do some meetings from now till then. So those are just some items that we will cover and potentially more, but we'll have a more full report at the next meeting from the March 17th meeting.
So do you foresee having members of the advocacy committee meeting with legislators?
Just discussing what kind of outreach we might want to do to legislators around the budget. Not necessarily us meeting with them, but we would discuss what we want to do at that meeting.
If there are resolutions we might want to consider, or if there are just like voter voice campaigns, things like that, we would want to share with the board and share with the community as well.
Share with the board before meeting.
Right.
Correct. Okay. Correct. Board development?
Do you want to do your West Putt advocacy, Watershed Bay advocacy before I go, or would you?
Oh, no, we can do that.
Later. Polling user, okay, great. Okay, board development is actually meeting, hold on. The 24th, thank you. I was looking at the wrong week, meeting on the 24th, and there's nothing new to report actually since the last time because we haven't met in the interim, so.
Communications.
So the communications committee met on March 3rd. We briefly discussed the continuing budget communications, and I want to thank Denise and Jackie and Steve just recently put out a superintendent's video. So getting out the information about our budget to the community, we will continue to do that. And then we also finalized, we hadn't gotten any comments from anyone with regard to the process document for Meet the BOE. So that has been finalized and placed into the board resources folder. So everyone has access to that. That also began our sending twice a month ahead of meetings. You will have seen that I sent an email ahead of this meeting and the prior meeting with the discussion logs and any other questions that were submitted for the website so that everyone sees that information. We are continuing to work on the opening and closing statements for hearing the public. We're continuing to look for opportunities, great opportunities for student recognition at our meetings. This meeting is one of my favorite that we have every year, where we have our BOCES student of distinction. And we'll be looking forward to having more, as Steve mentioned, the valedictorian and salutatorian at an upcoming meeting, and continuing to look for ways that we can celebrate our students here. And then we're just continuing to work on community responses and communications, and we'll be scheduling a meeting soon. So
I just maybe be on the lookout for that. I did want to just provide one particular update with respect to communications to the community. Jackie did forward me drafted or proposed draft of communication to respond to messages we got via email to the board from the board president. Steve has also taken a look at that and signed off on that. So we're on board with the administration, so we should be able to start rolling that out with future communications. But I'll circle back to the committee before we implement them.
So you can't basically have it now.
No, I got nothing to community.
Okay, all right. So moving on to policy, and at the same time, if you'd like to do the ad hoc committee on social media policy 10105.
I'll do policy first, and then we'll go policy. committee met on March 4th. We have discussed previously what the various items that we worked on, some of which are either here on first reading or have been adopted in second reading. We will be meeting next on March 26th, as I said earlier, and we will be continuing to work on those policies in which the term citizen appears. We will also be talking, probably I think for one of the first items on our agenda will be a request from the administration to change the procedure for initiation by a middle school student athlete or forced middle school student athlete to be considered for athletic advancement, otherwise known as playing up, which has been requested by the athletic director. We will also be, after that, discussing a couple of longstanding policies in the business, longstanding policy revisions we've been talking about in the business office portion, and getting to, I hope, a policy 5550 on which is student privacy, a policy that we have been, it has been suggested we should have and do not have, and that relates not so much with records, but it relates with marketing and things like that, and how we operate. I want to add, as far as policy is concerned, one other thing, and that is we have a requirement each year to look at our code of conduct, and it is my hope to have on that agenda some matters regarding or some potential revisions to the code of conduct, some of which have been recommended to us by NISBA, one of which comes out of the work on finding the words where the word citizen appears and correcting it. And hopefully we will have more policies for first reading at the April 10th meeting. As far as the ad hoc committee is concerned, we met on March 12th, yesterday, at the beginning of the meeting, advise the community that we will not be doing any further work at this point in time on policy 0105. But we did then move on to social media policies. The committee completed its work on policy 4526, social media use and instruction and official communications. Before it comes to the board, we want to ensure that we have not missed anything or created any legal problem potentially, so that will be reviewed by council, and after council reviews, that will be provided to the board for first reading. The only other policy that the ad hoc committee has in its remit is a policy on social media use by trustees, which dovetails to some extent definitions, etc., to policy 4526, and I anticipate after one more session, the ad hoc committee that will be ready to go to the next step and come to the board, probably after review by council. And at that point, assuming we get through that process and there's nothing that's kicked back to the ad hoc committee, at this point in time, the ad hoc committee's work will be done, and the president of the board will have the opportunity, perhaps joyful opportunity, to disband the ad hoc committee.
I have a question, Neil, just about 4526 and then the accompanying policy. So is the plan to present both of those at the same time so that we can sort of look at them in conjunction with each other? Or are you thinking that there's going to be a gap because of where they are in terms of the position?
I think there will probably be a gap just because of the process, but there may not be, depending on, when how quickly Josh,
Right,
Theon, and I can get together.
right.
But they really, what the policy on social media use by trustees really deals with very different issues. It deals with what can you say in your official capacity as a trustee? What can you say in your personal capacity? How do you make sure that you are not saying something in your personal capacity that might be considered or interpreted to be speaking as a board member? The fact that board members have certain, yes, rights, if you will, that, related to our service that are a little bit different under the law than than the First Amendment rights, if you will, that apply to employees of a public entity. And also how the most recent Supreme Court decisions, the decision Lickey versus Freed, which talks about, when a member of a board or a city official uses personal emails to respond in a way that makes it appear that you're speaking on your personal email as a public official, and then what happens with your ability to block individuals from responding on your social media. So they're somewhat related, but they're mainly different issues. They don't have to come together, but to the extent we can, bring them at the same time, we'll do that.
Okay.
And I will say it's the hope, I think, that by the end of this school year, by June, that we're done so that,
They can be
the
in
next board.
Can start with that, that's
Yeah.
great. So I think my follow-up question to that is, just if you could remind us, are these both new policies that?
These
we're
are both
adopting?
new policies.
Right,
That's
I
correct.
guess the thing I would, propose to the committee is to make an effort to sort of bring them together, even if that means holding the one for school district employees, only because while yes, there are, legal reasons and like reasons in terms of our roles that are different, I do think it's important for us to have the context of one while we're looking at the other. And I think also just, for the understanding of sort of like the general public and the community, to ensure that like a policy that's being enacted for employees, that we're sort of looking at our own practices at the same time. And as part of that same conversation, seems to me like a approach that would be sort of more equitable and I think received well by the community, since this has been a policy of interest for a couple of years now, so.
That's
make that
actually a
proposal.
good thought. And,
Yeah.
I think that, I actually think that makes sense, but,
Okay,
I just don't wanna,
no, I know you've been working on.
I don't wanna not provide something that is
Right.
necessary for faculty, staff, and student use.
Yep.
Of the district social media, because that's really gonna involve some, training and discussion so that everybody understands
Sure.
what they can do. It's a little bit different than what we do as public officials, but yeah, I'll make a note of that.
Thank you for considering, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Is that it? Moving on to item 8.3, polling of the board.
All right, so I would love to just remind everyone that we do have a West Putt, actually, I believe the last money talks presentation is tomorrow. You may still be able to sign up, but it is cutting it a little close. But I did want to draw everyone's attention to the panel discussion that West Putt is hosting this year, and that is going to be on March 31st, which is students, smartphones, and social media. Particularly timely given our discussion just now of the social media policy, but also the potential for a cell phone ban or some restriction on cell phones for our students. So that will be held on March 31st. You can register through Denise. We will send that to into West Putt. And with that would come a copy of the book Growing Up in Public. So the author of that book will be hosting that presentation on the 31st. I also wanted to point out that we recently received, on March 3rd, you would have received an email from Paul Heiser of NISBA Governmental Relations for the annual advocacy survey. I would encourage you all to please take the few moments that it takes to fill out the survey. There are about 12 questions on there and 12 points on there that they're looking for data on that will help inform the information that they send out for the resolutions process. And I wanted to share with everyone that I have been asked to chair the resolutions committee for NISBA for the coming year. So I'm happily accepted that. And it would be obviously a very big help for our committee, as well as we're going through resolutions, to have a robust response to that advocacy survey. So just put a little bit in there. You have until the 21st to fill that out. It really only takes a couple minutes.
So what that also means, which congratulating you, is that you've got to be like on the mark for 12 straight hours.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, I will be introducing the resolutions at the annual meeting as well. So that will mean that we will mean that we do need to select a different delegate next year. Although I was excited to do it last year. But yeah.
Very cool.
Congratulations, and
Congrats.
thank you for doing it.
Yeah, very
Thank
good.
you.
Excited.
I have a few polling units.
Sure.
So the first one is that I know we received communication from BOCES that there will be 2 PNW BOCES regionalization meetings to discuss the regionalization initiative, which, just to make sure everybody's clear, regionalization does not mean that school districts are going to be combined, or it's really talking about sharing resources, ideas, also receiving state aid for initiatives, a lot of the things that we have done, but a lot of other as well. They were going to be on Thursdays, and well, one of them was going to be on a Thursday, which was a conflict with our work session. And so they've been scheduled for Monday, April 7th and Monday, May 5th, in person at the PNW BOCES campus in Yorktown Heights at 7 o'clock. And I know that they are hoping, and they're not 2 identical presentations. They are, discussions about, and the first will be built upon at the second. So, I have it on my calendar to be there. I think they want as many people as possible who can, or feel that they can contribute to those conversations to be there. There was a deadline for April 15th to submit like a 1-page report to the Commissioner of Education, and I've been told what is being done in these meetings is not necessary for that report, but is necessary for the next steps. So if there is anyone who is interested in attending, I think there's probably, I don't remember whether the communication said contact directly or contact through the district clerk.
Contact directly.
Contact directly.
Yeah, because I'm just looking at it to put on our board development calendar, so contact directly by February 28th. The RSVP.
Well,
that was a while ago.
That was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's not February.
Feels like I know, right?
It's there, and if, I think that may be a space issue for the most part.
Yeah.
And it'll probably be in the gymnasium where we saw Baby Rose and SCD. So, I think, I'm sure if you said I wanted to go, they'd find space.
I hope so, because I didn't RSVP if I had.
Okay, well,
I
fine.
plan to.
Fine. So.
And I'll still send it out, and I
I'll be
apologize
there
for
and-
being late, yeah.
So I will also, on a different subject, I attended the Village Bicycle Pedestrian Committee meeting on the 20th of February. One of the things that was being discussed, one of the things that was discussed is an initiative that people may or may not have heard about, Project Mover, where the village in kind of tag on to a program already existing in Ossining, where there will be e-bike stations at various places around the village where one.
They're still in the survey phase of that, is it not?
Yeah, they're a little beyond that. They're talking about, what we talked about is identifying 6 locations around the village to actually have those, like a library, the municipal building, the train station, ShopRite, and then to add more, maybe ShopRite's on phase 2, but they're kind of moving them. And I know,
The survey isn't happening now, though.
The survey is
Yeah.
happening now.
yeah,
yes.
but right, it's a survey because they said, we want to go forward, but if, I mean, if this is, bicycle.
That was communicated and
Yeah.
in the community to give feedback, and that is already launched.
Well, actually, no, you're right.
Sounds like
They said, no,
village.
Len Simon said the village will be sending out a survey to gauge interest, but in the meantime,
It's
Yeah.
moving forward.
it's moved well, unless, unless they get a unanimous response, well, we don't want this.
Neil, remind me what it is.
So it's gonna be like, like they have city bikes
Yep.
in New York.
Except they're not.
They're not,
They're
e-bikes.
motorized bikes.
They're e-bikes. And they're gonna have e-bike stations where you can, kind of rent it, $1, $1 a mile
Subsidized
or
at
whatever,
first,
and all that stuff. And Ossining apparently has already started that last year, and the vendor or provider for Ossining is trying to also provide the service, and Pedigo, whatever it is, I think his name, who's, the owner of Pedigo, is really very much in support of this, maybe because he figures that business, people will buy bikes or rent from him when, they can't get them otherwise, but, that's what's going on. They also, and this is something we may want to consider, there was some discussion about sidewalk repairs and, DPW doing sidewalk repairs and making sure that the list that they've got, where they have needs for sidewalk repairs already identified, are going to be followed through on. And I suppose if there are other things, DPW should know that to add on to the list. Obviously, if it's a sidewalk that is owned, for which a property owner is responsible, that's gonna be dealt with however it is with the individual owner doing it or the village doing it. There's no discussion of that, no indication that there would be any kind of incentive program or cost sharing as time has passed. The last thing I talked about, which really has a little more connection with the district, is Earth Day celebration, which is planned for the first week in May, and what the village conservation advisory committee leader, John Ealer, is trying to that's on Sunday, the 3rd of May, is trying to put together is a community bike ride. Getting students, kids, parents, families to ride somewhere, like perhaps from Senasquare, go to, behind Half Moon Bay and go back, around. They don't have those plans firm, but I'm sure what will happen is once they affirm, once they meet later this month, they'll start reaching out to our schools, and say, you know, we want to encourage this, and parents, teachers, students to join in. And it's one of those things that they, you know, it's sort of like the first time they did they had the marathon, there was only like 100 runners, and it was 20,000. So they just, you know, a lot of ideas were bandied about. I don't know what's going to happen, but you know, it's something that they want to do and they grow.
So just going back to the e-bikes.
Yeah.
And I know that trustee Simon is a huge proponent of the Pedigo, I don't even know the name of the company, the local company. My concern and my responses with response to the survey were for the safety of our students in terms of sharing those bike lanes with e-bikes and the location of those bike stations being for village resident use, which is what I think the intent of the grant is, versus for promoting tourism at Croton Point Park or commuting. So I would love to hear what the discussion is with that, and I would love to hear what the discussion is with respect to safety for our students, because every spring we hear about how groups of students are riding their non-motorized bikes, sharing the road with new drivers out of this high school and with village residents trying to navigate. So I hope that there is some consideration given to those conflicting interests and current residents, and not just kind of expanding that program because you have you know, a zealous advocate or something.
I don't disagree, but you know, my role, you know, I kind of, as the liaison and listening, I'll bring back whatever I know, but it's really not our issue as much as it is a community issue, and to the extent of safety of our students. So, speaking of students, I happen to notice coming over here that there are temporary paper and wood stake no parking signs on Radnor between Five Corners going down towards farm from Alta.
I'm happy to talk about that because I attended the Student Faculty Congress and our student ex officio trustee commented on that. Yeah.
So you talk about that, but I just also want to add that I went to the PBC, Building Planning Council. The discussion centered on considering how the back to school night program at PBC might be changed to be more effective in enabling parents to be able to see teachers, both in what I'll call core classes and specials, and to minimize the having parents sitting there while, you know, teachers and administrators and board members are droning on about wherever we talk about that they don't really want to hear because they want to get to the classes.
I think it's just board members and administrators.
No, they did say, you know, introducing every.
Teachers speaking at
No,
those
but
types of
introducing every new faculty member and then introducing, you know, the.
It's when all the specials teachers.
Yeah, and so they figure out different ways to do it, whatever it is, and that's what.
Or the PTAs and
Yeah,
things like that.
PTAs and booster clubs and stuff. So that is what was discussed there. And anything else?
I attended the high school building planning council this last week. Talked about the new schedule gonna come out, and Mr. Dubek had a coffee discussion group yesterday with the community. We also talked about the health systems graduates, and the next meeting will be going through that list of nominees, I guess, to talk about the selection process. Just a reminder, since our student association isn't present, spring drama, we played that on April 4th and 5th at the Ossipee High School. the junior.
Austin, Austin, huh?
Austin.
Okay.
They're
The
kind
Laramie
enough
project.
to lend us their space. The junior prom is on March 28th. And excuse me, no, I wrote down SAT, April 24th. Is that, it's the PSAT, is it? And that's my report.
Okay, so my only report is that I had the pleasure of attending the planning meeting for Taste of Culture, which is taking place basically 2 weeks from Friday. And I was very excited to see the number of families who are there getting ready to prepare this event. I was also grateful to note that the team that is working on this family-friendly event has been very thoughtful about ensuring that everyone has a safe and positive experience, as we've seen in the past. So there's a lot of attention, I think, towards making sure that folks feel comfortable, that we are welcoming everyone who is part of our school community there. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm excited to participate in that event in a couple of weeks, and hope we'll see families there on Friday, March 28th at CT.
Yeah.
What's up?
There's a lot going on, March 28th.
It's a busy school district.
I attended the student faculty congress meeting in lieu of Anelika and Josh, who were unable to attend on the 6th. There was actually, Isabel was very thoughtful in presenting the budget portion that we had seen in this meeting here. So it was interesting to see her then convey that. There was a lot of discussion surrounding the cost of electric buses, and some thoughtful, response to how that impacts the budget and how it was offset by state grants. And I mean, it was interesting to see them all take that and process it in real time. There was also a discussion and a committee formed regarding the parking situation surrounding CHHS, and a thoughtful approach to creating a map that would then be distributed. This is all student directed, which is just fascinating to sit back and watch, see our students address a problem in our community and want different input, because whenever they form a committee like that, they make sure that they have representation from each grade. There's also discussion regarding the 100-year celebration of Harmon High School and how they plan to commemorate that and reflect on that. So again, they're breaking up into different groups to address different elements of it and to incorporate different clubs and make sure that there's representation from different angles of the school and celebrating that. So I love that. There's also some discussion regarding the ping pong tournament, and that's a fundraiser for Student Faculty Congress, where they kind of request 100% participation from that committee, or from that student body. And they all come and they all plan it, and that's just like really, really interesting to watch. So they did mention that the ping pong tournament is on March 20th, junior prom is on March 28th. The Laramie project, which is the high school drama, will take place over the weekend of April 4th. And Isabel just did a really great job of conveying everything that was kind of on our agenda. And then the final thing that I was able to do, or not the final thing I'll report on, is I had the pleasure of accompanying, along with Dr. Duback and Assistant Superintendent DePaul, and our very talented teacher, Carrie Tracy. We went in with the Women's Empowerment Club to the New York Historical Society, and we were able to see an exhibition on the last 200 years of wardrobe and clothing for women. It was, we were brought in through a docent. We started at the starting point in the President's Hall, which was, predominantly male, and we're then able to turn around and juxtapose that historically to the evolution of women's clothing in the United States and globally. And to see their minds, it was, again, 100% student directed. It was researched by, I believe, 2 members of the committee, or I'm sorry, the club, to go in and to see their minds at work and to see what interests them and to be present in their thoughtful questions and processes of everything. It was a really great thing, and I would just like to tell Superintendent Walker how amazing it was as a board member to do that, and to thank you for the opportunity to do that, and to encourage my fellow board members, if you hear of something going on in the community that sparks your passion, as our students are doing, and perhaps, you know, approach, and if possible, to see if you can participate, because I love our learning walks and I love seeing them in the classrooms, but some of the work that we're talking about is actually verging in terms of them exploring their interests outside of that, and to see that in action was just the highlight of my year is always graduation, but it's gonna be hard to top, seeing them all in that setting. So thank you, and thank you, Ms. Tracy and Dr. Duback, and to Assistant Superintendent DePaul for allowing me the opportunity to do that. Is there anyone else for pulling it forward? We will then move on to item 8.4, items needed for the next Board of Education meeting. Anyone? And just for the record, the next Board of Education meeting will be on Thursday, March 27th. Here at 7:30, there will be a meet the BOE before that. And I know I said at the beginning of the meeting, there will also be a prospective board trustee candidate meeting that will start at 6:30, and there will be 2 members of the board there for that, and there will be 2 members of the board at the next meet the BOE. So at this.
And as I understand it, that's when we'll be discussing the various building budgets and special education.
So the board is now going to enter into executive session. Action item 8.5, recommended action be resolved that the Board of Education hereby enters into executive session to discuss the employment of a particular person or persons.
So moved.
Second.
On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. The board will remain in executive session until, obviously that ends, at which point we will be needed to adjourn. So thank you to the community for attending this meeting, whether in person or, later. Thank you.